Hello! You already save a lot of money every year thanks to our videos, so save on car parts too. Buy them on the Mr. Auto app. Shipping is free.
Turn your engine off. Pull up the handbrake, pull on the bonnet release lever and open the bonnet. Open the brake fluid reservoir. In order to change the brake discs and brake pads on your vehicle, you will have to raise the front of the car and take off the wheels. This will provide you with full access to the brake pads. Loosen the stud bolts on the front wheels and raise the front of the vehicle. Once you have put in the 2-axle stands, you will then be able to take off the wheels. Don't forget to slide them onto the vehicle. We strongly suggest watching the tutorial raising your vehicle safely before carrying out this step. Turn the disc outwards. This will facilitate the process. Insert a flathead screwdriver to the outer extremity of the oblong hole located on the front of the brake caliper. Lift it off using the screwdriver as a lever by pulling it towards you. This should cause the piston to go in. Ensure that you have pushed the piston in as far as possible before moving on to the next operation. Using a 13mm spanner, unscrew the lower caliper mounting bolt. Sometimes you have to stop the lock nut from turning by holding it with your fingers. Flip the caliper upwards. Use a flathead screwdriver to extract the holding springs on the pads. Then, with the same tool, remove the pads by separating them from the disc. Using a wire brush, clean the noise dampening shims. Put the caliper back into the initial position. Tip: attach a piece of electrical cable or a piece of string to one of the coils on the suspension spring. With a 13mm socket wrench, take off the upper caliper mounting bolt. Once removed, this should free the caliper. To avoid damaging the brake hose, attach it to the suspension using the cable you have already attached. To release the disc, insert a thin flathead screwdriver that can go between the edge of the disc and the caliper. You have to insert it in front of the brake caliper mount so that it goes flat against the mount. Using a 25mm Torx socket, release the 2 holding screws on the disc and pull the screwdriver out. Depending on the state of the nuts on the brake caliper mount, it may be necessary to use a hammer to loosen them. In this case, use a T-handle instead of a socket wrench. Using a socket wrench and a 55mm Torx socket, loosen the first 2 screws that fasten the brake caliper mount. Finish by hand. And finally, remove the brake caliper mount. Finish by removing the screws that fasten the disc on so you can completely take it off. Sometimes the disc may get stuck on the hub. If this happens, use a hammer to remove it. You can clean the hub with a wire brush. Once finished, coat it with copper grease. This will help avoid deterioration caused by oxidation and aid with future interventions. Before putting the new disc in place, it is vital to clean it using brake cleaner and paper towels to take off the storage paraffin. If your new disc is painted, you can place it directly onto the wheel hub. Place the new discs onto the hub and rescrew the 2 fastening screws by hand as much as possible using a 25mm Torx socket. Put the brake caliper mount back on, screwing by hand to begin with and finishing with a socket wrench and a 55mm Torx socket to fix it completely. Reuse the screwdriver technique to stop the rotation of the disc. This will allow you to fully tighten the fastening screws of said disc. Replace the caliper and put it back in place. Start by first screwing the upper caliper mounting bolt, and as always, start this process by hand and finish with a 13mm spanner to fully fix it in place. To fully fix it, use a 13mm spanner. On the outside of each pad, insert the halting springs provided with the new pads. Coat the outside of the new pads with copper grease. To reinsert them onto the brake caliper mount, tilt them slightly in order to preload the springs, then push down firmly on the base of the pad to put it in place. You can now replace the caliper and screw the lower caliper mounting bolt back on. Don't forget to use the new screw provided, which has been pre-coated with thread locker. Don't forget to withdraw the electrical cable or string that you attached to hold the caliper. You can now repeat the same process on the other side. Then, put the wheels of your vehicle back on. And lower it to the ground. Before starting your car, don't forget to screw the brake fluid stopper back in. Be careful. Before using your vehicle again, start your car and pump the brake pedal a few times to bring the brake pads together again. Try to drive smoothly and avoid sudden braking for the first 50 kilometers or so to avoid glazing the new pads. Operation completed.